Welcome to Getting Hired Presents Disability Pride in Action. My name is Amanda and I am the head of Getting Hired. I'm a 30-something woman who uses the pronouns she and her, as you can see with my name. I am Black biracial with a tan-like complexion. I have brown curly wavy hair and hazel eyes, and today I'm wearing a brown shirt and a tan blazer with mixed metal accessories. I have a flower over my right ear, which is kind of like a burgundy color. It's my signature. I've worn a flower in my hair for the last 15 plus years, every single day. It's a way to bring a smile to my face every morning, because every morning is a gift. Getting Hired is an inclusive workforce solutions partner with a focus on diverse identities and diverse disabilities. Our In Action series is a roundtable discussion or panel where our inclusive employer partners, like our roundtable guests today, Lemon, Q, and Sarah, all representing Comcast, AGS, and Active Minds, they get the opportunity and a space to highlight what actions they're taking to support and optimize the success of diverse identities and diverse disabilities in the workplace. In honor of Disability Pride Month, we're taking a slightly different approach. Over the course of our conversation today, we're going to be sharing our experiences as professionals with disabilities. So we'll be sharing, or dare I say, disclosing to all of you how these things show up for us and what our lived experiences as individuals representing the IWD, individual disability space. Before we get started, I'd like to thank everyone again for taking time out of your day to be here. We're grateful that you're a part of Getting Hired's community, either as one of our community partners like Active Minds, or an inclusive employer partner or team member, or even an individual that might be looking for a new career opportunity. We truly hope that you leave here today impacted in a positive way with tools or best practices to help further inclusivity in action. Before I pass it over to my fellow panelists to be able to introduce themselves, a few housekeeping items. Closed captioning is enabled, and if you'd like to turn them on, you can do so by clicking the More button on the bottom right of your screen. And then you can click Captions and Show Captions to turn them on. We will be staying on the line after the conversation for about 10 to 15 minutes for a Q&A session. It's a unique opportunity to be able to ask some real-life questions, and hopefully we'll be able to give some great insights. Please use the chat during the presentation to ask questions, as well as emojis and reactions to respond to anything that might resonate with you throughout our discussion. It takes a lot of bravery and courage to be on a panel like this and to discuss your own personal experiences. We are all on a continued journey of inclusive language, including myself as the head of an organization that focuses on inclusivity. We will be very mindful of this as we engage today, but there's a good chance you're going to hear individuals describe things in new ways. They might be slightly modified, and they might be completely juxtaposed to your own ways and beliefs, but this conversation is truly about disability pride in action. The panelists will now introduce themselves, and they're going to be sharing different things about them. Their name, company, and title, the descriptive introduction that we shared before, or I shared earlier, their own personal disability experience, as well as why they're sharing their story and wanted to be a part of this panel today. So I'd like to start with Lemon.
All right, unmute here. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. My name is Lemon. I work for Xfinity, so that's Comcast's residential kind of branch. So everyone's home stuff, that's what we handle. My pronouns are they, them, and I work in the retail space as a retail service associate. So I handle all of our store's operations, so merchandising, inventory, customer equipment, everything that helps our store actually run as a store. I am 31. I still look really young though. I'm non-binary, pronouns are they, them. I'm white, really pale, but I have rosy cheeks and blue eyes. My hair is fairly short and brown, but I have long fringe that sweeps across my clear acrylic glasses. I'm wearing a black t-shirt with a very tiny X embroidered on the left side. I am neurodivergent, so I have ADHD. I've had it for as long as I can remember, and I've also have a general anxiety disorder. Very fun. So like social situations, especially like this, give me what I like to call the brain scramblies. So I do apologize if I stutter or I blank out for a second. But this is a really fantastic opportunity, and I'm really happy to be here and be able to share my experiences and hopefully resonate with some people that are watching.
Thank you so much, Lemon. This is a safe space, so I'm grateful that you are honest and open about your own experiences, because it's not easy for a lot of folks to be able to be up here, and we're so grateful that you're a part of this. Sarah.
So my name is Sarah Sable. I work for Allegis Global Solutions. I've been there for about 1.5 years, and I'm also our events coordinator for our ERG Enable, which is our disability ERG. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am 41, white, very pale as well, long, dark blonde hair in a ponytail, hazel eyes, and I'm wearing a black blouse. My disability is a bit of a long-winded answer, and like many others, it's ever-changing. Sometimes not in a good way. I was diagnosed many years ago with fibromyalgia, as well as an autoimmune deficiency. However, as I've gotten older, it appears that I might have been misdiagnosed. So again, ever changing. So the really reason I'm here is to help foster a supportive community. It's really something that stuck with me recently. I've heard a couple times is anyone can become disabled at any time, and really just bringing that supportiveness so others can come forward. That's really why I'm here.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah. And just to drop some statistics there, you're spot on. Anyone could become disabled at any time. 80% of disabilities are acquired over the course of your life, comparatively to 20% being congenital. So you're spot on. One out of four people in the US have a disability, so 26%. And then 1 out of 5 people are a caregiver for someone who has a disability. Think about your parents, your siblings, or even your children. So you made some really great valid points there, and I'm grateful for that you're a part of the conversation. Q.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate being here. My name is Q Garcia. I use he or they pronouns. I'm the manager of training and content at Active Minds, which is a nonprofit working with young people to open the conversation about mental health and really create a lasting community change that is youth peer-to-peer focused. I'm a 20-something fat Latinx trans man. I have short pink hair, octagonally shaped glasses, and some facial hair. I'm wearing a magenta jacket that matches my hair and a black shirt with a blurred background. Speaking to the conversation earlier of that anybody can become disabled at any time, I am somebody who did not have, I was not immune compromised before, but after contracting COVID, I developed long COVID, about 2 years now with long COVID. I'm also neurodivergent and have ME-CFS and epilepsy. I'm really excited to be here today to both share with you some Active Minds resources and provide some insight into the mental health side of disability, as well as just on a personal side, provide representation, visibility of being proud of being disabled and still thriving in the workplace, not despite my disabilities, but with and because my disabilities.
You're giving me life, Q. I love all of that. I love how you even mentioned long COVID, right? This doesn't come up very often, but long COVID is listed in the ADA, which I'm about to share with you if you don't know what the ADA is. But it was also, I believe, one of the single most largest events where a group of individuals became a part of the disability community. And I think it impacted about 4 million people. So it is something that we're going to continue to see as, though we continue to say we're in a post-pandemic environment, what does that really mean? And what does that mean for the long term of how that's going to continue to impact, especially those of us who have comorbidities or multiple types of disabilities? So thank you all for sharing and introducing yourselves and why you're here. I want to start off with, what is Disability Pride Month and why is it celebrated? I said this earlier when we were prepping, and I'm going to say it now for the team because this is going to be a real honest conversation. I believe some people might think that disability pride is an oxymoron, that maybe it shouldn't go together. Even some people who were inside of the community like myself, and I can be honest and say that I wasn't as confident as I am now to be able to share the experiences that I have and to be able to see the pride and the disability strengths that come with navigating a world that was not set up or made for me and other individuals that are a part of the disability community. So July is Disability Pride Month in the United States, and it commemorates the passing of the landmark legislation, the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. That means that this year the ADA is turning 33 years old. That will be on July 26th of this year. And the other cool thing about that is completely unintentional. That's actually the first day that I started with getting hired 2 years ago. It was my first day. So to be able to merge my lived experience and to be able to be a part of an organization where this is a big piece of who we are and how we're trying to disrupt the way that we hire and acquire talent and support that talent to be able to thrive. It truly is aligning passion to purpose. The ADA ultimately prohibits the discrimination of people with disabilities in all areas of public life. This includes jobs, it includes schools, it includes transportation, and all public and private places that are open to the general public. Think about curb cuts on sidewalks, ramps, elevators in shopping malls, the closed captioning that I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation. All of those things were made possible because of the ADA and likely some additional disability legislation that's been passed, and they truly do benefit everyone. It's truly a month for us professionals with disabilities to be able to embrace our disabilities as an integral part of who we are, interacting and owning fully out in the open while rejecting any shame or internalized ableism that may be lingering. Disability pride's also been described as accepting and honoring each person's uniqueness and seeing it as a natural and beautiful part of human diversity. I'm so grateful again to be able to be here with all of you to honor not only your or our uniqueness, but also your courage to be able to share this beautiful part of who you are. Audience, you truly do get a front row seat to disability pride in action. So in our introductions, we talked about what our disabilities are, or a few of them. We may not have shown the gamut, but I'd like to go a little bit further into that. Starting with Lemon, how does disability or your disability impact your life?
ADHD is a lot more than what most, I think, the general populace kind of assume. Easily distracted. Oh, look, a squirrel. It's very debilitating sometimes. There are times that like I have difficulties getting out of bed, even just because executive dysfunction is really common with ADHD. It's hard, and compounding with anxiety. And I also didn't mention I'm legally deaf in my left ear. So like auditory processing is difficult. Being anxious all the time is difficult. ADHD is difficult. It's not being hyperactive, because I will tell you, I am tired all the time. Like focusing is difficult. I have tons and tons of reminders on my phone to remind me to do things. And then I have reminders to those reminders that remind me to look at the reminder to do the thing. It's a lot.
Absolutely. I love how you talk through all those things. And likely as we keep on telling our stories, a lot of individuals with disabilities, I promise it's not like Pokemon, you got to catch them all, but a lot of us have multiple things going on that then interact with other things that then have our disabilities show up in such a unique way. So I love, Lemon, how you actually walk through some of the ways that you're also managing your the things that you need to optimize your success, because there are those little reminders that are needed to make sure that you're able to continue to do the things that you believe are successful, so that you're able to get through the day. So I truly, truly appreciate giving all those details. Sarah, I'd love to learn a little bit more about how your disability or disabilities impact your life.
I would definitely say that I have a list of them. Ever growing list, unfortunately. My disabilities impact is ever changing. As I said, for many years, I had invisible disabilities, something that you wouldn't outwardly see unless you spent some time with me, and I could no longer hide it. And then as I've gotten older, and things started to become more apparent and the more surgeries have taken place, I now walk with a cane. Many times I can't sit, I can't walk, I can't stand. Right now, I'm very fortunate to have an accommodation through AGS that I'm working from home, so that I can be comfortable and actively work while managing not only the physical attributes of my disabilities, but also the mental ones, the fatigue, being in pain constantly is taxing, and it causes fatigue. So there's many times that, it takes all of me to continue on with the day. And at the end of the day, I'm done. I'm taxed out mentally, physically, all of the above. So at times it's all encompassing, but then at times you have those good days and you're like, woohoo, I got this. And then you push it too much and then you end up right back to where you began. But yeah, so every day is a new day and every day is changing, and some are better than others, but you focus on the positives and try to move forward with those.
You are so spot on, Sarah, and thank you again for sharing the way that this shows up for you, how it continues to change. Even in the beginning, when you talked about being misdiagnosed, right, potentially, that continues to happen in this disability space, because, doctors are working at doctors' offices, also known as practices, and those things come up and show up in different ways, and other individuals may not have that experience. So I'm grateful that you are on this journey to get closer to being able to really feel like you're able to thrive. And I'm so grateful that your organization is supporting you with the way that they are providing access, and they're providing accommodations, or what we call it, getting hired, success optimizers. One of the things I wanted to mention when you were talking is, I was just reading something this morning from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that actually shared that, like, right now is the highest employment rate that we've ever had for individuals with disabilities since 2008. Wow, right? And what would make that be the case? Well, it has a lot to do with what Sarah was just talking about, right? Because of the pandemic and everything kind of being shut off and people going home, it kind of forced organizations to really figure out, how do we work from home? And for some of us with disabilities, what's the most accessible place for you to be able to feel like you can thrive? Your own home and your own environment. So that work from home opportunity and the hybrid environment is truly supporting the success of individuals with disabilities as they're able to get the things that they need to be able to to be successful. So I really, truly do appreciate you sharing all of that. Hugh, give us some insights to you. How does your disability impact your life and show up for you?
Yeah, I'd love to dive in. I first just want to say I love, thank you all so much for sharing. And with that kind of work from home or accommodations, or as you said, like ways to help people thrive and succeed, I love to say that when you provide accommodations to people with disability, it benefits everyone. So you were talking about the having ramps or having the curb sidewalks. If you think about it, yes, it helps people with mobility devices. It also helps parents with strollers, people carrying a lot, everyone else. And with working from home, it accommodates and supports people with disabilities thriving, but it also supports people who have different childcare needs, people who have different work schedules and house and life schedules. And so I just love that whole concept that you're really supporting everyone in thriving, regardless if they know they have a disability, if they have one, or just life happening for all of us.
Spot on.
Yeah, speaking to my own disabilities, I'd say that they're very complex, and I do want you all to know all the symptoms. So my ask for everyone joining would be later on today to Google long COVID, epilepsy, and ME-CFS. And the reason I ask you to Google it is I think it could be a great exercise to just go through your day in your head and then look at those symptoms and think about how each one would impact your day, because it would take me a long time to describe that all to you. But just know, I want you to do that process. And something that's not always highlighted, like when you're researching, is the impact on mental health. We talk about this, especially at Active Minds, that it's not just like Sarah talked about, the physical symptoms impact your mental health. Also, all of a sudden, for those of us who developed disabilities later in life, I kind of was like, oh, where's my handbook? How do I manage this? Nobody gave me a handbook. I do not know. But how do I tell all my friends that I can't go out with them anymore because I can't handle that environment? I'll pass out, or like I can't get sick. How do I tell my family that I can't perform and support them in certain ways, like with paperwork, with scheduling, that I need support, and that can really impact your own social life, isolation. And even with work, I've had situations where having kind of invisible disabilities, a coworker will say, hey, can you grab that like huge stack of chairs and bring it over? And in my head, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to have that conversation right now of like, I can't, but I don't want to explain to you why. So really, that's also an impact on mental health. It's extra mental labor you're having to do all the time. So research the symptoms with also that caveat of like, how would it impact how I'm feeling every day?
I love how you walked us through that as well. Everybody's done a great job being able to share their personal experiences and then some, I think, real life snapshots. Social impacts is a huge one. Honestly, just think about what happened with COVID, being forced to not be around the folks that you love and your tribe and that support you because of, safety reasons in the unknown. For some individuals with disabilities, that's every day. If you have a compromised immune system, those are those things that you're thinking about constantly to be able to make sure that you're putting yourself in a great situation. So there are a lot of things that I don't think that maybe the average person thinks about when it comes to, our energy bucket. That's how I look at it. So I have cerebral palsy, and it impacts the entire right side of my body. It's called spastic hemiplegia. If you were to put your hand up like you were showing a muscle as tight as you could, and you felt your arms shake in tight intenseness, that's what the right side of my body feels like 24 hours a day. It's very, 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 very tense. And with spasticity, there's a lack of fluid that moves, so blood and water. So the right side of my body is also smaller than the left side of my body. And oftentimes people look at me, even though I have a congenital disability, I was born with it, so I'm of the 20%, but oftentimes people look at me and think, yeah, you don't necessarily look like you have a disability. Like, I'm almost 6'1". Right now, I don't utilize any assistive equipment, but I know that as I continue to age, being the height that I am, along with the symptoms that I have, I'm going to have to. I know it's going to be a part of my life. So I truly appreciate each one of you sharing how this shows up in your life and some of the things that you do to be able to make sure that you're putting yourself first and you're conserving that energy that I feel like each one of us talked about. We talked about fatigue and being tired. And I don't know if for people watching, there's a term called spoonies. I don't, that's definitely something that I would look up if I were you. And it really just talks about, the prioritization of energy. I call it an energy bucket, right? There's only so much energy you have inside of a bucket. And if you were to pull a cup out every day, where would you put those? And sometimes our energy bucket might be done by 9 a.m. just because we had to focus in on all the things to get us out the door and through the door, wherever the case may be from a work perspective, to be able to then turn on. So thank you all again for sharing that with me. You did so, you shared it with so much pride. Now that kind of rolls me into disability pride. I'm really interested in knowing how Disability Pride Month has influenced your own journey and potentially the perception of your disability. Anybody want to go first?
I can go.
Hey, Sarah.
I'll be honest, until quite recently, I believe maybe even last year, the Disability Pride Month, I wasn't even aware. And it was like, oh, okay, that's amazing. Now what? And I think so many times, even for myself, I want to advocate and educate not only for myself, but for the others around me. And I think that Disability Pride Month gives us the opportunity to learn and also to promote that positivity that maybe someone who isn't ready to share or doesn't know where to start can hear one of or all of our conversations and say, hey, that makes sense. Hey, you know what? Now I don't feel so bad. I'm gonna be able to, maybe tell my friend that I've been hiding from, or, just be able to be present more because they've heard somebody else's story.
You're spot on. It used to make me really uncomfortable when people would say things like, hey, the way that you talk about this, you gave me permission to be myself. Like, to me, that's a lot. Like, I want you to be you no matter what. But just being able to say out loud sometimes that, hey, a lot of people have things going on. Dare I say everyone has something going on, even if it's not a disability, right? That impacts the way that we interact. The more that we can share that and be open and honest, the more we can remove stigmas and be breakers of those stigmas. I love being a stigma breaker. And to be able to really show that, our world is layered intentionally or unintentionally with a layer of ableism. That definitely does create barriers and limits accessibility for a lot of us. So I love the perspective that you shared there, and the honesty around just saying, hey, I didn't even know it existed maybe a year ago. That's one of the reasons why we want to have conversations like this. Individuals within the community don't even know necessarily that there's a month that celebrates the fact that we have disability strengths, things that we have figured out and things that we have trialed by error to be able to truly thrive as we navigate the world that was not set up for us. What are your thoughts, Q?
I love this conversation, and I love giving people, permission to not be judged, and also permission to not know things and to learn and to grow. I think we're all doing that. And something I'm excited to see kind of coming out of this conversation around disability pride is yes, we need the education. We need people to better understand, because education is the source of growth. At the same time, we also need to have space to just exist as people and be proud of who we are and be proud of all the parts of ourselves, without having to justify that. Not that education is justified. Education serves a different purpose, but just the amount that I've heard that just being visible, just talking about myself, my symptoms, gives people that permission. I don't even need to be necessarily intending to provide that, like you said. And so that's what I'm really trying to embrace. And yeah, I've heard of disability pride the past few years kind of coming up and like heard people talking about it, but I don't think we've landed as a community on what it means on purpose, because it means something very different to everyone. And for me, I'm really trying to embrace it as getting rid of that shame, like moving from shame into pride.
And that is a journey on its own. Lemon, talk to us.
Much like Sarah, I actually didn't realize that Disability Pride Month was even a thing until very recently, about like a month or so ago. And I think I have a lot of internalized ableism. There's a lot of times where I think, oh, I'm not disabled enough to be able to call myself disabled, because like I do just look normal, whatever that may be. But like invisible illnesses exist. People have their own things going on. People are disabled. There is no such thing as disabled enough. And I want people to know that.
You are so spot on. I mean, even in my world, right? Cerebral palsy or CP, oftentimes people say, well, you have a mild form. Oh, okay. That's nice. I think it's more caliente, but all right. Yeah, it's one of those things that you always have those scenarios where unfortunately you feel like you have to prove yourself. But for me and what you're even talking about, and even Q, to compound a little bit on what you were saying, and you too, Sarah, I didn't know about it. A couple of years ago, I had seen a flag that had come out, and I don't know if you've seen the Disability Pride flag, and I apologize, I don't have it available right now. I'd look it up. There's two versions. One of them has a like a lightning bolt, and the two colors next to each other are red and green. And it was created, I believe, about 5 or 6 years ago. But then inside of the disability community, to align with what Q was talking about, it shows up differently for different people. So once people started to give the creator feedback about the flag, she realized that the red and the green next to each other was going to be an issue for individuals who are colorblind. And then from the lightning bolt design, if you were to go on a screen or a computer and have that scroll down quickly, because of the shape of it, it was a trigger for individuals with epilepsy. If it wasn't for individuals in this community sharing that information, the flag would not have been redesigned. And so now it's redesigned with red and green on opposite sides. Every color represents a different part of the disability community, and the zigzags were removed. So it just goes to show that we truly are on a continued journey. And I'm just grateful that there is a Disability Pride Month. We all know that there's October, National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And that's really a great month that a lot of organizations support, and Getting Hired is 1,000% behind it, and supporting self-ID and creating those inclusive workforces solutions. But when it comes to Disability Pride Month, I really think it's our month. It's our chance to be able to give people the opportunity to say, so you know somebody who has a disability? Cool. You know one person with a disability. There are a lot of disabilities out there that are completely different and impact things in different ways. And I want to take this chance to be able to say this with pride and say that this is who I am and this is how I've been able to get to where I am today. So love, love, love the honesty and sharing there. And I don't know about our audience members, but if you're new to Disability Pride too, we're excited that you're a part of it. And we hope that next year you do it just a little bit more to be able to make it a part of your celebration. We've been talking a lot about the word disability, Disability Pride Month, us having disabilities. The word disability wasn't always the word that was utilized to be able to describe our community. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. But some of the words that you've probably heard in the past, and it's going to make me cringe a little bit to say some of them. So just a heads up, because it's not the terminology that I use. One of them is lame. LAME, they used to call it the lame community. Then another one is crippled. And then lastly, handicapped. So handicapped is still something that I hear often. And I know when I was younger, my parents said I was handy-capable. But now in the community, those aren't necessarily words that are embraced with a smile and a thumbs up. So I'd love to know, as we're all very open people in the community right now, realizing people struggle and have different opinions here. how do you describe this part of your life? Or what are your thoughts around the language when describing our community? Hugh, I see you kind of rocking back and forth. You want to go in on this?
This is my favorite question. Someone who I'm in the field of training and content, and so I think a lot about language. And I just love this question, first of all, because I think when people want to be an ally, when people want to be supportive, one of their first blocks, their biggest blocks is language. They're like, I can't be involved because I don't want to say the wrong thing. This is me telling you that you're going to say the wrong thing. Like that is something, I say the wrong thing. We all do. That is something, like, we're humans. And so my biggest advice is to get comfortable with that. Get comfortable with making mistakes and having people correct you. I tell people, if I correct someone, that means that I care about them enough to be vulnerable and to tell them how I feel. Like, I don't correct necessarily strangers or people I don't know. And so just really getting comfortable with that. The other thing I'd love to center is just labels, identity terms. What are they? Why? I think that the purpose of a label is to provide language to an experience we're having. So it's a way that I can better communicate and find community. I am not for labels that are put onto people or that shrink people's identities. And so thinking about that, that's going to be different for every person. Every person's going to feel differently about that. And so just really removing assumptions. If you don't know how someone identifies or is going to use language, like either defer to them, like wait till they use it, or ask in, of course, a gracious way of knowing that you might be corrected or you might have a different understanding based on that person. So with that, I'd say for me, I love using the word disabled and saying I'm a disabled person. The reason is I think there's a lot of parts of my identity, like queer and fat and disabled, that have been used as shame words in the past. Like they have shame attached, they were used negatively. And to me, I'm like, but there's nothing wrong with being those things. And so I love using them to really change that conversation and get people comfortable with hearing things with changing their bias and their understanding and their initial thought. So if you kind of feel uncomfortable and you're still getting used to using disabled for people, I'd ask you to think about why, what's coming up for you. Do you feel like, oh, I still have some feelings that disabled equals bad? And really think about for yourself, which we all do. It's not your fault that that's ingrained in you, but it is an opportunity and your responsibility to shift that and really honor what people are telling you feels most comfortable for them.
Great insights, Q. Loved everything that you shared there. And one key takeaway for me is get comfortable learning and unlearning. We all have to. Sarah, would love to hear your thoughts here.
I think that every person's journey and story are different. At the beginning of my journey, I had an invisible disability. And at times I didn't, and I heard this earlier, that I wasn't disabled enough. So I felt that I couldn't use the term because it wasn't enough. And, you have to get comfortable with it. And even though as the years went by, it progressed to the point that it's impossible to hide it. And, through the years, I've gotten more comfortable with speaking and sharing my story, just for advocating for myself through doctors and all of those other challenges that we face daily, that I got more and more comfortable with saying, yes, I am disabled, and it's okay. So I definitely kind of gravitate towards it's a journey and it takes time, and it's okay, no matter how your disabilities show up, that it is enough. And it could be more that you're just internalizing to try to kind of help the others around you. So, yeah.
Great insights. You're spot on. Feeling like you're not enough, so you don't want to identify in the community. But at the end of the day, you were always enough. You were very, very, very thoughtfully and wonderfully made. And there were no mistakes. So grateful that you shared that perspective. Lemon, anything that you want to compound on here?
I really appreciate Q bringing up basically like reclaiming the word, because again, like I'm bisexual, I'm non-binary, so I'm also in the queer community. Like those words are descriptors. They're not negative. There's nothing negative about them. So I think while terms like handy capable, those are fun, those are nice, people can identify however they like, but I think inherently the word disabled isn't necessarily a bad thing, and we shouldn't shy away from using it just because it's kind of got a bad rap.
I hear you. I feel like it has a bad rap because of the nature of the word itself. Like, have you ever dissed something and it been a good thing? Okay, I haven't. I've described my car as being disabled on the side of the road. I'm not necessarily a person who wants to be described that way, but I believe with some of the other options that we have, there is a reclaiming of it. I've heard people say differently abled. I feel like that's a term that's been going around here recently that a lot of people are getting behind. Someone mentioned normal before. My entire life, all I ever wanted to be was normal. I didn't want to be different, so I didn't want to be differently abled. Some of the terms that I like utilizing now in 2023 are varied ability. Everybody does things in varied ways, even if you have a disability or you don't. So I liked varied ability. And then I like diverse abilities. As we continue to link that connection, that disability is diversity. I'll say that again, disability is diversity. So lots of great insights there. And hopefully folks in the audience and those listening could get a little bit of insights to some other words or ways to be able to describe those things. I'd like to now move on into microaggressions in the disability community. I know this is a topic that happens often, and honestly, I feel like probably ties a little bit into why 26% of the US has a disability and less than 5% disclose in the workforce. For my panelists, as a heads up, we do have 17 minutes left here. So we're going to go through microaggressions and then probably do like another question before we close out and then do Q&A. But from the microaggressions perspective, I'd like to know from folks, what have been your experiences with microaggressions and how have they shown up for you? For me personally, the types of microaggressions that I've heard in the past have things like I've mentioned before, like, well, you don't look disabled, you look like you're fine to me, or even that maybe it's an attempt to be empathetic or sympathetic to say, well, aren't we all disabled and broken in our own way? Oh, I don't look at myself as broken by any means, but when people put those types of things together, it only adds to that idea of internalized ableism. I even see Jordan Hargrave in our chat that said someone has it worse than you. Mild CP? Yeah, that's what you just told me. Somebody has it worse than me every time we have a conversation. Other words that pop up, and I saw that someone mentioned, and Jordan, again, thank you for engaging. We truly appreciate you, Jordan. Talked about how they've utilized lame or idiot or stupid are the R word, which is retarded, my least favorite word in the world, and other language that could be intentional or unintentional. But there's also words like crazy, psycho, don't be psycho, or hey girl, I feel like you're going a little too OCD there. All of those things are definitely considered microaggressions. So would love to hear from the team here. Anything here resonate with you? Any experiences that you've had in this space that you'd like to share? Let's go, Lemon.
OCD. Ah, that drives me so nuts. See, did it right there. Yeah, microaggressions.
Language, yes.
Like sometimes it feels like they come from everywhere all at once. And it's from people who might not even really mean to be doing them. Like, obviously that's what microaggression means. Like, it's just tiny, but like my family, for instance, I have executive dysfunction issues. So they'll see me drawing and be like, okay, but I asked you to do the dishes like 10 minutes ago. What are you doing? And it's not me being lazy. It's not me like procrastinating on purpose. It's just the wires in my brain get a bit crossed, and like my brain is like, drawing good, dishes bad, so I don't want to do it. And so like being called lazy is something I've had to deal with my entire life. And being told as well, like, you're too smart to have ADHD. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just too smart. Like, it makes no sense to me because your intelligence has nothing to do with it.
Very, very valid. And I love the self-correction, like you did there, right? At the end of the day, that's what it's about. Things are going to pop up and you got to be like, okay, how could this land with somebody as I'm talking? And if they haven't disclosed with me, or there's somebody in their room that has, an experience or a feeling, how could the way that I say things potentially trigger that or not support it in a positive way? So I even the word lazy you sharing, I feel like that's very valid and very, very, very important to share. Because when you think about ADHD or even going into the individuals on the spectrum, autism, right now, then the last time I saw the numbers, 1 out of 38 people are on the spectrum. And there are a lot of similar or compounded symptoms that are very similar to that. So words that get thrown out that you don't realize are microaggressions really can be. Sarah, any thoughts here?
I have to say my favorite two are, oh, you're so young. And then also well, somebody has it worse than you. So then you go home and you're like, okay, well, I am young. Yeah, somebody does have it worse than me, I'm sure, multiple people, but then you're like, okay, then I should probably just shut my mouth and not say anything. And I think that is so ever populated and happens daily. So then that takes that, the people who maybe were going to speak up or advocate for others, they step back because they're like, okay, too young, not enough. Okay, I'm just gonna sit back here and, keep quiet.
I believe that that's a story that a lot of people will resonate with, 1000%. I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard, utilizing language that continues to make me feel not enough. I'm going to disengage and just go figure it out, right? You're spot on. Q.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And something that I think about with microaggressions is that we think micro means small, so it's a small impact. But really what micro is intended to mean is between individuals. So it's not my company necessarily doing something to me, it's my coworker doing something, or like my friend. And so small interactions, big impact. Like microaggressions are what have affected me the most. And yeah, and I think also with you, Lemon, talking, I also have ADHD, and something like, it's not that I don't want to do it. I want to do the thing so badly. It's that my brain has different like chemicals and functioning that make me unable to do it. And so that's something that's just really difficult for me, is to accept the things I can't do. And also with neurodivergence, I could be like a lot of people with autism, and me included, the can versus can't is really difficult. I'm like, well, I can do it, I'll just be in bed for like 10 days after. And so really coming to terms with that and accepting that I don't have to explain myself to people of like what I can and can't do, and I don't have to be that specific, and accepting that their microaggressions aren't my identity. Like I can leave them at my door.
You are so spot on. Those are just words, and that's where they're at in their journey right now. And it's a choice for us to be able to decide if we want to engage. We are not the CEO of inclusive language for all people. So, it's a choice in that moment to decide, this is where I feel like I can make an impact or a difference. And I truly believe that this conversation alone right now has likely opened the eyes of so many people who didn't realize some of those words that they're utilizing could be considered microaggressions. And I know we all shared that, not from a space to be able to say or point fingers. It's really a space of awareness and a space of information and education on how this lands for our community. And the other piece of this at the end of the day is that all of us are professionals with disabilities, and we all work for organizations that have given us the ability to have the courage and the pride to be here today. They've supported and amplified the existence of the partnerships that we have, and be able to make this possible. So I'd like to take the next 10 minutes, because we have 10 minutes left here. I would like to go through and just really understand, or if you don't mind, shouting out your company and talking through how they support currently or have supported the individuals with disability community in the workplace. So if you want to go first, Lemon, would love to hear what Xfinity or Comcast does.
One of the biggest kind of core pieces of Comcast is DE&I. In the last few years, we've started a diversity, equity, and inclusion ambassador council, and I am a part of that. I recently joined about a month and a half ago, I want to say, and it's taking individuals from all walks of the company. So like me, who's in retail, a frontline employee, or like a market manager, or someone who's like in the technician side. We come together and we ask the hard questions and ask, like, what can we do to make this a better place to work for everyone, no matter what? So like really putting a focus on that. We do training all the time. There's webinars. I actually took a class yesterday that our My Abilities employee resource group put on for sign language. Like it was a kind of a crash course in ASL, and we do those sorts of things all the time. And it's a lot of fun, but it's really, really important as well that, like, you know, we have those things, that we are loud and able to share and like be open, do all that sort of cool stuff.
I love that. Love the council, love the idea of universal design. How do we just create access on the front end of all of the different aspects of the business? And then the ASL to crash course, that's awesome. Just imagine the impact of someone who has ASL as their main language to be able to have partners who can say hello or hi. That's so impactful. Sarah, what's Allegis Global Solutions doing?
So not only do we have the DE&I, but we also have established ERGs. So not only enable, but we have many other ones to really, and please forgive me, I'm going to start reading off of my notes because I don't want to mess up or leave something out. That to really build and leverage a diverse workplace and creating those inclusive work environments, and just promoting and elevating people with different abilities. Within Enable, we've had, we partner with D&I, and we were able to increase email font sizes, and also just for our marketing pieces, the dark blue background with the white font to make it more visibly able to see. Within our ERGs, we collaborate together to have other events within ERGs. Within Enable, we have panels such as this. Last year we had one for learning disabilities that we were able to have somebody from Disabilities Association of America, as well as other speakers, to kind of really go outside of our company. And then the biggest piece is giving us the abilities to do so. So last year, 2 members of our Enable group was able to go to the Disability In Conference virtually. This year, we were able to bring in not only those 2 people to go in person, but also I was able to go, as well as somebody from our program executive and a piece of our marketing team. So that way, we could attend this global conference expo to further promote advocacy and education. and bring that information back to AGS to, you know, promote that culture of accessibility and change possibly the policies and development planning to just make everything more inclusive.
I think that's amazing. I love how there's the compounding of the DE&I and that advisory council, but also the ERG, which is just named Enable, but then the intersectionalities with the other groups, depending on how you identify. If you don't identify in the disability community, there's still a place for you to be able to find that threshold of shared experience. And it sounds like that's something that continues to be amplified and reinforced through the organization. Now we have 4 minutes left before the end of our scheduled time here. We will try to stay on for a minute or two if anybody has any questions, but would love to know, Q, let's talk to us about what Active Minds does to support the community as an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to say that over the past couple of years and moving into the next few years, Active Minds has identified that systemic racism, homophobia, transphobia, and ableism are a huge part of a mental health and public health crisis. And so even though we are committed to serving all young people, we've identified that specifically LGBTQ+ and BIPOC young people need specific and tailored interventions and support in navigating this. So in all of our programming, you'll kind of see that commitment and that ongoing commitment to those intersectionalities and disability as well. Something that we're excited about that we love Getting Hired's kind of platform, but also we have a platform where you can similarly search for jobs specifically who center mental health and who have signed up to have mental health programming. It's called Cause and Career. I sent it to Brittany to hopefully send out to everybody in the chat. It's a job board where you can kind of filter and see your priorities. Another thing is we have some programming that you can bring into the workplace or kind of partner with us. It's called VAR, which is Validate, Appreciate, Refer. And this is, we acknowledge that especially communities who have been marginalized often go to their peers for support because institutions have either failed them or they don't have access. And so it's a training where you can get some support on when somebody comes to you, what do you do? How do you help them? How do you help people who are struggling? On the other side, internally, we have some fun things that we've been incorporating. We have mental health days every quarter that are like the whole office is closed. We acknowledge that when we give people individual mental health days, sometimes it's still hard to unplug because people are still working. And so we've said, as an office, we are closing for this day. Nobody touch their work. Please take care of yourself. We also provide flexible schedules because we acknowledge that employees need to attend doctor's appointments during the day. That's when doctors' offices are open. I think that's a huge barrier for people with disabilities. So we provide flex hours and flexibility there. And the last thing I'll say is we have a little feature on Slack where you can mark that you're having a low energy day and people will automatically go in and like cancel their meetings with you or reschedule them for another day so that it really acknowledges like you can still be working, but have like a low energy day or you need to focus. And so that's also another, just the small things that create a more supportive environment for disabled people and all of us.
I love all those nuggets of knowledge that you just dropped. I love the VAR. I'm a big fan of acronyms. So the validate, appreciate, and refer. Oftentimes, again, just because you're part of the community, people feel like you're the expert and you're like, but no, I'm just a part of the community. I didn't sign up to be the CEO. The low energy day on Slack. Wow, that's a game changer. That to me, that's a game changer. To be able to just non-verbally, right, have an indication of I'm here and I'm going to give my all, but my all might be 60% today. So I love every piece of that. I can't believe it's already 1 o'clock. We've been here for a full hour having this conversation, and we got to talk a lot about our lived experiences, how our organizations have been able to support us, as well as the connection with Disability Pride. We're going to do it again next year. Super excited to be able to continue the conversation and get this message out. I have a lot of hopes for the future of Disability Pride Month and the impact that it has on society. And at the end of the day, it truly is about access, in my opinion, access to help, access to support, access to community, access to assistive equipment and technology, or the accommodations or success optimizers. And at the end of the day, I believe that there is a way to be able to provide that and break the barriers down. And it comes down to these types of conversations for people to be able to learn new things and then unlearn the things that have gotten us into some of the current societal situations that we may be experiencing now. So I'm so grateful that you tuned in. I'm grateful that everyone was a part of this conversation. And if there is any questions that you have, feel free to reach out to us. I'm sure everybody on the panel would be open to being able to have some conversations. We'll try to see how we can get some of that communication back out to you. But we are super duper grateful that you are a part of this convo. And we hope that you have a great day and a great rest of your week. Celebrate the month of Disability Pride. Celebrate July 26th with the ADA. Go teach something to someone that you learned today. So that we can continue moving this message forward. We appreciate you, and we'll be seeing you soon. Bye, everybody.